Howdy, folks. Thanks for tuning in for another Cruise of Smooth. Had a rather boring day today until it wasn't. I had to run into town today for some animal feed. Went to the store, had the kids with me. I know you can't be doing that, but it is what it is when you don't have daycares. Thankfully, it's a store and you're able to just walk right in. Your car's like 20 feet from the cash register, and it's very mild temperatures right now, so I just left the kids locked in the car and got what I needed. Well, when I'm on my way over there, I call my wife, make sure there's nothing she needed from town, and she said, "Your timing is perfect." I'm like, "Is that a good way or a bad way?" Because I'm good at both. She's like, "I just got pulled out of a hole." She works as a utility locator, and she had fallen down and gotten injured on the job. Somehow or another, a manhole cover was not properly situated, and she stepped on it and down she went. Well, she's like, "Well, I'm going to finish today's work and I'm going to call my boss." I'm like, "No, you call your boss now, because he needs to know what's going on and tell you what you need to do." So she called her boss and he sent her to a urgent care center. And thankfully, nothing broken or fractured, just bruises. Sorry, folks. So, nothing broken or fractured, just bruises. And they do want to see her back in a couple days just to follow up, make sure that things are getting better. And so we got to make a reasonably long drive to go to a doctor's office that is quite a ways away, just to go back up there. But the thing that was that I kind of wanted to talk about today that just came into my mind is how much grandparents rock too. My mom has been busy doing a couple odd and end things for some family members that are in worse health than she is, and so she had to go out today and take care of that. Well, then I left to go get what I needed, and I find out my wife gets hurt. I call her. She just got home. She met me somewhere so that she could take the kids, and I don't know, because I didn't know if my wife was going to have to go to the hospital or whatnot, and I didn't want to drag the kids up there having to hunt for bathrooms and missing dinner time and all that stuff. So I just called her. I'm like, "Hey," and she's like, "If you want, I can meet you somewhere and I can take the kids." And I'm like, "Yeah." So grandparents rock. It's amazing how much she helped out today, and I know that she enjoys hanging out with her grandkids and all that, but they would have gone stir crazy going up there. I get up there and my wife was just starting to fill out paperwork, so she didn't beat me by too much. She had to finish up a couple things with her boss before he wanted her to go. She wanted to get some paperwork and things and just some basic information about what happened since she wasn't bleeding. But anyway, she took the kids, and when I get up there and I go to sit next to my wife, and they're like, "Unless you're being treated, you cannot be in here. You need to go sit out in your car." So I sat out in the car. I drove quite a ways to sit out in the car for quite a while, but it worked out good just in the event my wife was not in condition to drive herself home or needed to go seek further medical attention than what the urgent care could provide. So It's one of those things I'm glad I was there in the event of, but it was pointless. But worked out good. So kids, forming a relationship with your parents is a good thing, because you never know when they can help you out, even if it's not the big things. The little things help too, because my 4 kids sitting in here for, I think I sat in here for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. They would have gone nuts. I would have had to have gone to a gas station somewhere to have gone to the bathroom. They would have been cranky because they missed dinner. Would have had to have gone and found something to eat somewhere. So it just worked out really good. So grandparents rock. Hashtag grandparents rock. That's the hashtag for this show, I think. But yeah, grandparents are cool. Love you, Nana. I've had to give my wife a couple calls like that over the years, or give her news where I had been hurt while working. One time at work, this was working my 9-to-5 job, so to speak. I was on day shift at the time, so 6 to 5. But anyway, I hurt my thumb really good. I jammed it into something, trying to hurry up. I had dropped some parts and I needed more, and just nuts and bolts. And I dropped them, tried to reach in and pick some more up, and I jammed my thumb on the part rack. And it proceeded to hurt really bad to do any sort of work. I couldn't put any pressure on it. You had to hand start some of these. I couldn't pick parts up and hand start with that hand. I couldn't do anything. It just hurt. So I had to go to the medical department at my job. I work in a big factory. And they're like, well, we don't particularly like messing around with fingers because of how easy it is to do damage. So they sent me out for an x-ray, which I was thankful for. And so I called my wife, let her know that I was heading to go get an x-ray, and that it was on my thumb, thankfully. And nothing ever came of it, and it felt a lot better the following day. But another time, this was one of the craziest injuries I've ever heard of, and that I've definitely ever had happen. I was cutting grass, and it was for a business that I had cut for in the past. They, however, had me hold off cutting early on in this particular season due to some construction work they were having done. So they're getting construction work done. There's tools and equipment and places I can't get in and out of real easy, so I'm waiting. So finally, they call me up and say, hey, come out here and work when you're ready. Okay, cool. Go out there. It's the last yard I'm cutting this particular day. I was thankfully done. I was just trying to tidy up a bit. The grass had gotten really tall, and I don't know the actual name for them, but my dad just called them iron reeds, and so we're going with that. Iron grass, something like that. So it was bending it and cutting about half of it off, but there were still stobs about 2 to 3 feet long sticking up like this. And it was in the back 40 of the property. It was places where they parked overflow vehicles in their inventory, so it wasn't a high priority for it to look good, but it's useful to have it managed certain times of the year when their inventory got pretty high. So I went out there and mowed over it, and I'm like, that just don't look good. And so I spin the mower around and I'm mowing over everything twice. Wasn't a big deal time-wise. It was only in a small part of the yard. So I'm mowing and mowing and mowing, and these reeds are breaking against the deck of the mower. They're kind of getting pushed over, and it's snapping them, and then it can chop them up, and it's doing a really good job of it the second go round. So I'm happy, and they're coming up, and a couple of them brush my shins, but no big deal. So then I make another pass, and one of them, and this is a 1 in a million shot, I've never heard of anyone having this injury. One of them jams itself straight up my right nostril. I felt it start to go up. I reach up, grab it, yank it out. It hurt like I thought I broke my nose. And I'm bleeding and I'm cussing and the mower's still running. So I go park the mower on the trailer. At this point, I've got blood all down my face, my shirt, my pants, my mower. I get off the mower onto the trailer. I get blood all over the trailer. I strap the mower down. The bleeding starts to subside. I got blood all over my hands from holding my nose and touching stuff. I finally get ready to go. Thankfully, this place wasn't far from an emergency room. It took me longer to get the mower to the trailer and strapped down than it did to get there. That's how close it was. It was a half-mile drive. So I get the mower loaded onto the trailer, find a spot where I can park my mowing rig at this place, walk into the emergency room, and I'm all beaten, bloodied up, and the admission nurse looks at me and she says, just come on back, we'll get your paperwork while we're checking you in, getting your triage. And so I go back there and they're like, how'd this happen? I said, you will not believe the story. And they didn't. The reason why I went there is I want to make sure nothing was torn really bad, or that a piece of that reed didn't break off in there and I just go home and end up setting up a huge infection in my face. But yeah, that was an interesting story that happened. But it was funny, right when I'm getting in the truck pulling out of this lot, I call my wife, and I'm bleeding a little bit still. I had blood all in the truck. And I call her, and I started out the conversation with 2 words that you just never start a conversation with your woman. Don't panic. And so she proceeds to do exactly what I told her not to do. And she's like, what happened? And I explained the story to her. She's like, I'm on my way. And I'm like, don't you go doing that. Let me get up there. She's like, I'm coming your way right now. So anyway, the reason why that story ties into today, she gets up there. I'm fine. She follows me home. I'm fine the whole way home. No lightheaded, no nothing. I didn't lose that much blood. But when I called her and told her I was heading her way, she's like, what are you going to do up here? I said, I don't know, the same thing you did when you met me at the hospital. She's like, oh, okay. And I didn't even get that far. They turned me around at the door just about. So, but, yeah, a couple interesting injury stories for today. Another time that was pretty funny, my wife and I had been, I don't even remember, we were married, maybe. We may not have been. We had been roughhousing a little bit. She kept trying to tickle me. And so I kept trying to tickle her. And it turned into a tickle fight out in the hallway. And she went to tickle me again. I jumped and tried to push her arm away. and she went to pull away at the same time, and I slammed her forearm into the door jamb, and she thought she fractured it. Well, it wasn't hurting that bad right off, but I had to go somewhere and do something. I made sure she was okay. She's like, no, you go ahead and do it. I'll be fine. I get a phone call a little bit later. She's like, hey, I think my arm's broken. And I'm like, I'm on my way. Went and picked her back up, took her to the hospital, and the whole time the nurse is just mean mugging me. Like, this wasn't domestic violence, was it? Was it? My wife's like, no. We had a tickle fight, and I slammed my arm into the door jamb. He just helped because he jumped when I tickled him. So, yeah, we're very graceful people. That was interesting ER visit. The hairline fracture, they didn't put her in a cast or anything. They just ibuprofen, ice, heat regimen. So, yeah, my wife and I have had some interesting injuries over the years. Only one of them is a result of each other, though. She did fall down a flight of stairs right before we got married. And she was like, well, by golly, I am walking down the aisle even if I'm on crutches. And like, we had planned everything, had her dressed. I mean, we were ready to get married at this point. Like, not just we're in love, ready to be married. Like, no, we are ready. We were waiting on the day, I think. And I have pictures of her literally right before we got married walking around in a walking boot, which I thought was kind of comical, but she was very proud of herself to be walking around without a pair of crutches because she had been on them for about a week beforehand. And I think this was about 2-3 weeks before we got married. So, fun times. Well, anyway, I reckon that's about all I got for today, folks. Y'all stay safe out there. Like, share, comment, subscribe, notification bell. Love to hear from you. If you got questions, comments, topics I hadn't thought of yet. Y'all stay safe. I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in for another Cruise with Smooth.